All right, all right, all right.
What's happening, guys? Happy Monday. Yeah, that's right, Monday. And that voice you heard, he's back. I am your host, Memphis. You can follow me at DWZ Memphis. And that voice tonight is not my normal co host, Mr. Jerry Sinclair. This is the original co host of the Dynasty WarZone from many years ago. His name is John Schepps. You can follow him on Twitter at Coach Schepps. Schepps, welcome back to the show, man.
It's been a long time coming, man. I wore my camouflage green, so I'm ready, man. I'm ready to dive into the Dynasty Warzone. It's great to be back. You were on my pod the other day. It's great to be chatting with you, and like this really brings me back to when I kind of started in this, if we want to call it an industry. When I first started to get my toes wet. So it is so great for it to come full circle and be back here with you, man.
Well, it's great to have you back. In that podcast he's talking about is also a YouTube channel. That is the Toilets to Titles podcast slash YouTube channel. I was on there last week, me and the whole gang. There was like 7 of us. We did and you know what? Very efficient by John and the crew over at Toilet to Titles. We got through 10 rounds in about 80 minutes, which for a mock draft is pretty damn good.
And that include intros.
Intros.
So like it was really probably 70 minutes because there were 10 minutes of like, because there were so many people on it, getting everybody on there, dropping their handles and stuff like that. So I try my best to navigate those things and keep them moving.
Shout out to your producer, Justin. That guy was doing the Lord's work that night.
Yeah.
And speaking of YouTube, man, if you were tuned in to the Dynasty Warzone YouTube channel, you would be catching all of this live and ahead of time. Now, don't worry. Our man Dallas will be here still this week with his rookie content. We just thought with so much going on, and I wanted to talk ball, and poor Jerry, that poor son of a bee, he got stuck at the mother-in-law's, couldn't join us, but me and John, we're going to dive into some I guess free agent news. This is kind of NFL news because Jerry and I have been trying to be proactive. We don't want to miss a show, John. We've been doing Sundays. So sure enough, we did last Sunday, did our combine review. The combine was, last week here in Indy, and we did that, and then all of a sudden Monday the NFL world goes bananas. I mean, how crazy was last week for you?
Man, it was nuts. It was one thing after another, and not only moves but just rumors. So many moves, so many rumors. So Calvin Ridley, right? That started everything off, and then Calvin Ridley's probably so grateful that he started everything off because he was forgotten about right away. Right away. Then we got Deshaun Watson news, and then we got the Cooper trade. It was bang, 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 and then the MLB. I think you posted a meme just about Major League Baseball's coming back, and then boom, the NFL just throws out some more news.
So we're recording this live on Sunday, and I tweeted out earlier this evening. It was like Roger Goodell. I was pretending I was Roger Goodell, and Roger's like, "Hey Tom, the NCAA is having their
Oh, that's
March
what it was.
Madness bracket show. Is there any way you can do that thing that you do?" And Tom Brady was like, "No problem, fam. I got you." It's like the NFL is like they don't let anybody have anything. It's like March Madness now. We're going to swipe at that. Major League Baseball, to your point, they clear up their labor issues. They're back. And we'll just drop some news, and we're going to drop some news in a minute. Now, this is a special show. John and I have these conversations quite frequently on the telephone, so we thought we'd put it in a podcast for you for a Monday. But again, make sure you're looking for Dallas on Friday. Dallas is going to be here with some IDP content coming out of this rookie class. And I got to say, Dallas has been doing a tremendous job with the rookie stuff. So he didn't forget you. You'll have your Dallas rookie show. We're just going to bump it to a little bit later in the week because right now we got so much going on with free agency. But John, I don't know if you've known this, but since you've been gone, we used to do a lot of fun segments here at the Dynasty Warzone, but we've been doing a new one.
Okay.
And we call it Good People, Bad Tweets.
I like that. I like the sound of that.
And what we're going to, well, this sometimes it's, it's a specific person and sometimes it's a specific topic. And tonight I have a specific topic for you.
Go ahead.
The topic that gets me, the good people with bad tweets are the ones that have to run to Twitter the second that a player gets traded. Like, and it's always the most obvious stuff. Like I saw one tonight that said, if you're not a contender, you should trade Tom Brady. And I literally was like, no shit. Huh. You know,
Yeah.
as Jerry used the analogy last week, Tom Brady unretiring, if you haven't cut him off any of your dynasty rosters, it's like putting that coat away. Winter coat. This was Jerry's analogy last week. You put that winter coat away. It's got a $20 bill in the pocket. You forget all about it. Next winter, November, December, you go to put that coat on, you put your hand in the pocket, $20 bill. Now, do you have to run out and tell everybody, John, to get that $20 bill? I think sometimes the over obvious tweets are the ones that just frustrate me. Do you ever get those?
Oh yeah, all the time, man. And then those frustrate me, and then also ones that are like reactionary tweets that aren't thought out in a sense of like, here's the next player to get in line, right? This player is gone, get this player next, but they don't even know that guy's also not on the team either. He's a lesser known name, but he's a free agent. So, those reactionary tweets, you look at them and you kind of got to take a double take.
And sometimes reactionary tweets are very good. Sometimes they're very helpful. Another one, I don't remember the person's name, but I commented they were a little frustrated about Amari Cooper. We're going to get to that a little bit later in the show, only going for a fifth.
Right.
And I'm like, have you done any homework?
Right.
Have you done any, historical homework on wide receivers? There was a time when a wide receiver, John, now this is a little dated. This is back in like the mid 2000s. I think it was like 2006-ish, maybe 7, give or take. A certain wide receiver, maybe you've heard of him, Hall of Famer, Randy Moss, got traded for a 4th-round pick. So to be up in arms over Amari Cooper going for a 5th-round pick is probably not the take, John.
And he wouldn't have, I don't think he would have gone for anything if it wasn't for the Calvin Ridley suspension. I think that there was slim pickings at the position, especially if you're looking for a technician. If you're looking for, just an all-around good wide receiver, there are some options, Allen Robinson right there. But if you were looking for a specific role, Cooper and Ridley, very similar. And then when the news happened with Ridley, I think that drove up. Now it created more of a market if Cooper became a free agent. So someone felt like they had to go get him. He was going to be gone anyway. The fact the Cowboys got anything for that is, to me, it's impressive.
My take on that, we'll go ahead and just knock Amari Cooper out as part of this segment, and then we'll jump into the rest of the news. But for me, I thought this was a very, very savvy move by the Cleveland Browns. This is part of the ability to make moves like this when you have a quarterback still on a rookie deal. Baker Mayfield going into his 5th-year option. And what do you want to do if you're Cleveland? You want to see if is it the elite wide receiver? Was it Odell Beckham or was it Baker Mayfield? Right. And to go in and swoop in, because let me ask you a question, John. You're familiar with Amari Cooper. What do you think the odds of Amari Cooper choosing Cleveland as a street free agent would have been?
So maybe I'm going too deep into this, but I was kind of comparing Amari Cooper, and this might not be the answer you're looking for, so I apologize, but I was kind of comparing him to Carson Wentz. You know how it kind of came out that Wentz said he didn't want to go to a big market, whether or not that's true, but there were rumors that Wentz specifically told his agent, I don't want to go somewhere with a big market, big fan base where the pressure is going to be high. I think Cooper's that kind of cat. I think Cooper, no nonsense. He likes football, but I don't think he loves football. So you know what? I feel like maybe going to Cleveland, I don't know if he'd choose it, but I also don't think he's choosing Philadelphia. You know what I mean? I think Cooper is avoiding Philadelphia in a big way. So I think there's, New England. No, he would have went to New England for sure. And so then that takes away the chances for going to Cleveland. But, I think they had to go in there if they wanted him. New England was the team all along. I felt like, that's where he's going to end up with Big Bill.
I like when teams do this. Like I said, I think these are savvy moves. Last year, for whatever reason, Carolina had it in their head that they were contenders in the NFC and in the NFC South. So they gave up like a 5th or a 6th for Stephon Gilmore. Again, I have no problem with taking a swing and being aggressive. But before we move on out of this segment, John, you ever seen those T-shirts? There's the one with Darth Vader, and there's the one of Chuck Norris, and it says happy, sad, joyful, angry, and like all the pictures are the same.
Right. I've seen those.
We should make one of Amari Cooper. That dude always looks the same.
Check out his Instagram, dude. Like he's been jet setting the last month or so.
Is that right?
Oh man, he was but like the same face, like you said, like it's just stone cold. The dude's, going all over the world. There's one video of him with sled dogs, bro. He's like got to be in Antarctica or something. I think the dude's got other interests, and I don't think football is his world. But he is. He's the same face all the time.
He's a very stoic individual. He could have been in Alaska, the Iditarod, the famous dog race. Very well could be doing that. But that segment was good people, bad tweets. That's brought to you by our Patreon, patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. I absolutely love when news breaks. So much stuff. So we're getting ready to jump into Tom Brady. So tonight, as many of you guys know from watching the YouTube channel or listening to the podcast, I'm a baseball dad. And I went out to get a bullpen session in with my son. He's got tryouts starting this week. And we were going out there, and I get back to my truck, and my phone is just going bananas. So I started looking, and I was like, 84 messages in the Dynasty Warzone Patreon chat. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Did Deshaun Watson get traded? What was the news? And you could have given me 100 guesses, and I would have never guessed Tom Brady had unretired. But our patrons are all over it over at patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. We just wrapped up Patreon 13, our 13th Dynasty League. Going to be starting Patreon 14 soon if that's something that interests you, or just a good active group chat with good active members, and a special bonus podcast that comes out every week. The one that I just did that I uploaded was with Rich from the Dynasty Nerds. Not just about Dynasty fantasy football, but how he, sees his brand going, how he got to where he's going. It's about 45 minutes of just getting to know Rich as a person and what's going on with the nerds. And we drop that exclusively for our patrons over at patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. I may put it here on the old mothership, John, at some point. And John's going to jump on for one of those later in the summer. But we're calling that Real Conversations with Fake Footballers. So
and we're gonna have a lot of content. We got some draft. We got the draft we're gonna be doing leading up to the draft and the prop bets and stuff. We got some things going in the works, man.
I'm gonna go ahead and put it out there. I'm gonna get my timestamp out there so this way we can be the originator. We're originators here at the Dynasty Warzone. So on Tuesday night, Jerry will be back. We've got a firm commitment from Dallas. He's gonna jump on with us, and we're gonna do March Madness of free agents. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the remaining 4 best free agents at each position: running back, wide receiver, tight end, and quarterback. And each host will have a bracket, and we will do our bracketology of free agents for the NFL going into Wednesday. What do you think, John?
I like it, man. I have a little something too that's a little similar to that. I have a little bet with one of my guys from Toilets to Titles. We have this thing called the bathroom board, where during any episode, if we have a disagreement, we put it on the board and it becomes a bet. And at the end of the season, we tally the totals and we have a bathroom board champion. And so I heard buzz that DJ Chark's going to be one of the higher paid free agent wide receivers in this class. I'm not a big DJ Chark fan. The dude runs fast, but somebody said that Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be the highest paid free agent wide receiver, actually, or at least more so than DJ Chark. So if they're not signed yet, you should throw that on the bracket. That should be the tiebreaker. Whoever's the more highest paid.
Well, we will look into that, and we're not going to get into too much speculation because we're going to cover all the official, signings on the Tuesday night show going into Wednesday. So a lot coming up here at the DWZ. So John, let's get into it. Like I said, was out catching for my son in baseball. Come back to Tom Brady unretiring in the NFL. What were your thoughts, and what are your dynasty thoughts with Tom?
So you were talking about that $20 in a jacket, and to me it's like finding that rolled up lollipop, that blow pop in there. You got a long drive, you got that jacket. $20 ain't gonna soothe me while I'm driving up that blow pop. That's good. It's immediate satisfaction. And I have Brady. I held on to him, and the funny thing is, probably like 3 or 4 years ago, I was willing to trade him because I felt very comfortable at quarterback. And, no one wanted to give me anything. And the reason they didn't want to, again, this is a super flex league, so quarterbacks are valuable. It's because I thought he was on his way out. And then like 3 or 4 years later, the dude had one of his best statistical seasons of all time last year. Absolutely crushed it. And he's coming back for one more season. And he makes this announcement the night before, some of these big time free agents can go out and sign their contracts. Like he doesn't wait till after the fact. Like he's making an announcement, I'm back. So put that, so think about it. So if you're going to leave, you're leaving me, and you're leaving a shot at winning a ship. I think it's great. And as far as Dynasty goes, that, like you said, it's a bonus in Superflex. I have Deshaun Watson, and I was nervous. So I got Zach Wilson, I got Russell Wilson, and I got Deshaun Watson. And we kind of talked about this the other day. I'm very happy about Russell Wilson, and I'm high on Zach Wilson, but I don't know what they're going to do. If they go ahead and draft a wide receiver like Drake London, I'll feel pretty good about it, pairing him up with Elijah Moore, but I'm not sure what I got with Deshaun Watson. I'll be much more comfortable with Zach Wilson as my 3 than as my 2. And now I don't have to worry about that situation because Tom Brady's coming back. But like you said, clearly, you're not in it. Like if you weren't in it last year, you should have sold Tom Brady. Like dynasties, I don't think dynasty leagues should have. I don't think they should have trade deadlines. So if you were out of it, you should have shipped Tom Brady off, before the playoffs last year. But if you're still out of it, then heck yeah, go ahead and make that move and at least get something because the dude ain't going to play forever.
You can't prove that with modern medicine and his
True.
level of income.
I cannot prove it.
He may play for forever, but what this news means is last year's QB3 for the entire season. Now this is weighting all 17 games. He was the QB3. He scored 6 less fantasy points in your basic ESPN 4-point per passing touchdown scoring than Justin Herbert. Wild. 45 years old, or 44, going to be 45 years old. And again, John's right. Even if you get just a second for him, if you're on the clock and maybe you recently did a startup. I was just talking about, we just wrapped up our 13th Patreon Dynasty League. And if you were the GM in that league who got him super duper cheap, if you're on the clock and there's a rookie you love there, if there's a running back or a wide receiver, why not go to a team contending and say, I'll give you Tom Brady for this pick?
How about this? If you are in it, go buy Tom Brady. Like, go win. Like,
dude,
yeah, go get
it.
Tom Brady. Get him as if you're in a situation like I was in, where you got Russell Wilson, you're not sure what you got with Deshaun Watson. Don't sell the farm, but poke around. I think there's so many people who are kind of, they laugh when you're saying, come get Tom Brady. Don't be that person. Go get him. See what he's worth because he is going to produce for you. It's you can have plans. And you could try to be consistent. The thing is, we want to be consistent. But at the end of the day, you don't know what you have after this season. Go win. Go win right now. Get Tom Brady on your roster. If he's your quarterback 2 in Superflex, you're in great shape. Especially, you can't count on this rookie class. You look at this rookie class of quarterbacks. Like, if you're planning on drafting one of them and slotting them in as your quarterback 2, miss me with that. I would much rather have Tom Brady. Much rather have Tom Brady.
Preach it.
Yeah.
Because you're not guaranteed that any of these quarterbacks not named Malik Willis couldn't be the next Josh Rosen. So you may only get a year or 2 out of them.
It's like the Family Guy episode where there's the boat.
Oh, we use that all the time here.
Yeah, there's the boat. Like you could have a boat, or you could have this. And
the mystery box.
Yeah, mystery box. So
the mystery box could be anything.
Yeah,
even a boat.
Yeah, go get Tom Brady, man.
Go get. So Tom Brady, not huge for Dynasty. If I think Gronk will be back, they'll probably bring Fournette back. I don't know. I mean, the NFC.
Gronk's been. We're not speculating.
No.
Gronk's been talking up Burrow. He's been talking up
I know,
a little bit.
But when your best friend comes back, friend comes back. All right. So I think one of the biggest pieces of news for Dynasty, and nothing against Tom. Tom's a great all-time QB, but we're looking in 2 to 3 to 4 year windows here at the Dynasty WarZone, and I'm sure toilets to titles, same thing. And Deshaun Watson cleared of all criminal charges. Now, I'm going to quote RJ Bell from the Straight Outta Vegas podcast. He's like, no one in America is found innocent. You're found not guilty. Well, he was found not guilty of any criminal wrongdoing, no felonies, no misdemeanors. The only thing between Deshaun Watson and, I guess, the football field is about 6 months, because I don't believe he gets suspended, John. What are you doing with Watson and Dynasty?
Man, that's the $1 million question, right? I mean, what are you doing with Deshaun Watson in the NFL? Like, what are you paying for him? And it sounds to me like, people are willing to give up a decent amount. And if teams are believing that he's worth that, I have to believe that he's worth that in Dynasty. I've held on to him, so I can't speak from the perspective of somebody who sold him. I held on to him. And same with like Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is not, their situations aren't the same, but they're similar in the fact they've been away from the game, and I didn't sell them. So here they are. I got to hope for the best. And I'm hoping Deshaun Watson ends up in a good situation. That doesn't, I have no, like, it's not what I think about the guy, whatever. I'm just talking about fantasy sports. And I think, I think the cat can, so we saw last year after COVID with a lot of these, these guys are a little bit younger. Okay. But we saw a lot of these college players sit out a year. And I'm going to talk about a Cowboy, the Lion, Micah Parsons, sat out a season. Even Jamar Chase sits out a season and they come out and they ball out. And again, they have a little more age on their side, but Deshaun Watson isn't that old. And he's also playing quarterback. So I think he can be fine, but it's also mental. Like, is he going to be like a little messed up from the situation he went through? Is he going to be, you need to be very mentally strong to go through a situation like that and to know that a lot of the world is rooting for you to fail. A lot of people are rooting for you to fail. So is he going to crumble, or is he going to be able to put that aside and push through it? So that'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm very much a buyer. So last week, I want to say it was Wednesday evening, I received a random trade in a league. And this is a league where I've got a stacked roster, and I get offered Deshaun Watson for a 2023 first and Carson Wentz. So I immediately looked to see if there had been any, because I always do this with a deal like this, especially big name players. I go straight to Twitter and I search that player's name. Did they get now in the case of Watson, it would be different. But like if John sent me a really good deal on a player I like DJ Moore, and it seemed too good to be true, I'm gonna go straight to Twitter. I'm gonna search DJ Moore. Did he get arrested? Did he do something stupid? I mean, you have to in
Right.
2022. Yeah. And I did that, and I was like, okay, the case is going to happen on Friday. So I did send a counter, but I didn't decline the original offer. So like on Friday, like all day, I'm keeping an eye on Twitter, about 4:30 Eastern time, the decision comes down. I immediately switch over in my phone to that league, and I snap that deal of a first and Carson Wentz for Deshaun Watson. I get a pair of Watson with Josh Allen, JT, Cooper Kupp, Deontay Johnson, Stephon Diggs, George Kittle. I mean, I'm going to go out and win a ship. I mean, even if I don't win a ship, that 2023 third is going to be a late third more than likely. And I was feeling pretty good about that deal. So I'm about to I think John said it very well. Read today that the Saints are willing to move some kind of combination of Marcus Davenport, was it Ramczyk? Is that their left tackle or right tackle?
From Wisconsin, right?
Yeah. Him.
It's not spelled like Ramczyk. It's like Ramczyck. Like
it's like Krzyzewski.
Yeah.
But I'm Coach Kruzarewski.
Man, you said that very well.
Thank you, sir. And I mean, there are teams willing to give up the farm.
The Saints got to go. Kamara ain't getting any younger. Michael Thomas, 20, 29 years old. Like, Cameron Jordan, they got to go. And also they got to see there's blood in the water. Russell Wilson left the NFC. The NFC is not the AFC. Okay. I know the Rams are good, but the Rams can be beat. They got beat last year. The Bucks can be beat. Like, the Saints need to see that, that's why when the Cowboys move Amari Cooper, I'm thinking to myself, like, go get Bobby Wagner. Like, so what I see with the Cowboys, and I'm sorry to tie this back to them, is it looks to me like they're clearing up cap, because next year they're going to get rid of Zeke and they're going to have a whole bunch of money. They're setting themselves up. Michael Gallup really only got a 2-year deal, $12.5 million. 27 is guaranteed. So by the time Lamb is due, they're going to be able to get out of the Gallup contract. It looks to me like they're playing for the future to bring in Sean Payton and to have a lot of money. But I don't know if I do that. The NFC is wide open. The AFC is a gauntlet. It is a gauntlet. Like, there is no better time than now to win if you're in the NFC. So if the New Orleans Saints do that, I applaud it. And I love Alvin Kamara. I know he got himself in some trouble, but I'm thinking to myself, what the hell did the other guy do? All right, because Alvin Kamara never gets in trouble, at least as far as I know. So I love Alvin Kamara, and I would like to see him succeed. And I got a few Michael Thomas shares that I wasn't able to move on from. So, more power to the Saints if they can get that done.
Yeah, absolutely. And more power to you if you can get it done on your dynasty team. I mean,
man, for a first and Carson Wentz, come on. Carson Wentz is a throwaway. He's a quarterback 3, in my opinion. with the Washington football team, I have no faith in him. I probably has as much. He's right above the quarterbacks in this year's class, and that says a lot about the quarterbacks in this year's class because I have no faith in them. But man, Deshaun Watson for basically, a first and a second, essentially, maybe like a 2-1, 2-2. But that's what I'm thinking that deal is because we don't know what Wentz is. I don't know. He's a bus driver, right? Like Marcus Mariota. I think he's going to do decent. I love it. If Marcus Mariota goes to Indy, man, I'm telling you, I love it. I love it because I think he'll be a fine bus driver. And I like the head he's got on his shoulders. He's a little more of a veteran this time around. I think, so I think Wentz is a bus driver. He's not a fantasy asset.
I think Bucky Brooks puts it the best when he calls a quarterback either a tractor or a trailer. And a tractor is a quarterback who can pull. Think about a semi; they're pulling the trailer, and then you have the trailer quarterbacks, which the team has to pull. And I agree. I do think a little bit higher of Wentz. He was the QB 14 last year, so he can be a serviceable rotation QB2 type guy. But I get your point. I get your point in that. And by the way, I'm not trying to steal anybody else's take, but I am going to leverage it. There are a lot of dynasty services. I know Matt Kelly, the Podfather, recently said that he still thinks that the Deshaun Watson's going to get a year. I don't think so. I think it's 8 games max. I don't know that he even gets more than 4 games. So if you have a GM in your league who's nervous about Watson and his situation still, you still got a chance to go out and try to get cheaper. Don't know that I give up 2 first.
How do they get how do they suspend him?
That's my question. That's my question.
He can. I mean, Zeke, there was no, there was no like, he didn't get hit with any suit. It was all just word of mouth. So, and pictures. And I mean, we don't even have pictures. Maybe there's text messages. I don't know.
My thing is it's always been civil. And if you can start suspending players over civil matters, well, I can accuse you of anything. Right. And then it gets thrown out in court. But the damage is done. So the NFL, I don't envy the NFL. Like the normal stuff, you get charged criminally. Different conversation. But then again, it's Roger Goodell. He can do whatever the hell he wants.
Am I crazy for thinking that it is less likely he gets a suspension if he goes to a team that really needs a quarter? Like if he goes to a bad market team, maybe this is the conspiracy theorist in me. But could you see like Goodell throwing a poor team a bone? And then if he goes to the Saints, I mean, I could see him maybe giving him a suspension if he goes to the Saints because I don't think Roger Goodell likes the Saints.
I could see that theory, but I've seen Roger Goodell hammer Tom Brady. I saw him hammer Sean Payton, Big Ben. A lot of people, a lot of glamour. Those are glamour franchises.
Yeah, but you never see him hammer the Giants, man. You will never see him hammer the Giants. The dude loves the Giants.
Hey, New York, the Giants don't need hammering. They hammered themselves.
Yeah, no, that's what I tell all my son's buddies. My son's a Rams fan. He became one. It was his first year watching football. Like he loves Cooper Kupp. He wants to play wide receiver. Just makes sense because I coach wide receivers and so. But he also he likes the Cowboys because I like the Cowboys and his buddies bust his chops. And I told him just tell your friends that the Giants haven't had a winning record in 5 seasons. Sorry, Giants fans out there, but that's what we use. All right.
Well, let's get into what is considered some dated news at this point. But he's a guy I actually moved up my rankings in Dynasty, and I moved him up 1 spot, and that was Russell Wilson. And it's not so much that he got younger or his weapons got better. He's still same age. He still has a couple of really good wide receivers. He went from Lockett and Metcalf to Sutton and Judy. I'd say Albert Okwuegbunam and Gerald Everett are about a push. I love me some Javonte Williams. The offensive line's a little bit better, but the reason why I like it is that maybe they'll actually let Russ cook a little bit. I don't think Pete Carroll was ever really going to take the reins off that offense and really let it be a thing. And being in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and even Derek Carr, I think Derek Carr gets overlooked because the quarterbacks in the AFC West are so good. For me, I just see a lot more shootouts. I see a lot more opportunities for Russ to do big things. So I moved him up 1 spot in my rankings. Didn't do much for Seattle because I don't think they're done. But what were your thoughts on Russ and the impact, I guess the collateral damage?
So I just want to touch on what you said about Carr. I think this is one of the best things that could happen to Carr because I think Carr plays well when he feels like his back's against the wall. And I think this is going to work for him, having everybody immediately put him as the fourth quarterback in the division. Like, oh, they beat the hell out of us on Thanksgiving. So I was pissed off at Carr for a while. It ruined my Thanksgiving, but I'm starting to root for the guy. And I think, I think he's going to use this and I think they're going to be okay. But now, as far as Russell Wilson goes, everybody's kind of talking about Lockett and Metcalf and, how I don't think it's a drop off. I think Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton are better than DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I think Tyler Lockett is a vertical threat. I think the guy's a good wide receiver, but he's in and out of games. He can, and then like as far as in and out, what I mean by, he's got big games and then he's absent. He's got big games and then same with DK Metcalf. I don't think these are like Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are more prototypical wide receivers. I think Jerry Judy's one of the best route runners in the league, and I think the dude's just needed an opportunity to play with the quarterback who can actually get him the football. That's why I was really looking forward to Aaron Rodgers going out there. And, I really like Cortland Sutton. I really like Jerry Jeudy, like you said, with Javonte Williams. I think this offense is going to be good. There's going to be some shootouts. They're going to play in some low-scoring games because when you have a defense like that, and that'll probably be, in Kansas City in December. We're going to see a few games where, things just get a little tough and they start playing playoff football. But, for the most part, we're going to see shootouts. And I think Russell Wilson, I like you moving him up. I really like that offense.
And I don't want to steer everybody into the buy highs. Again, it was going back to good people, bad tweets. It was like, oh my God, you got to go buy Jerry Jeudy to the moon. I'm like, settle down.
Right.
To me, the move is to go get DK Metcalf. Or even we talked earlier about a contender. Go get Tyler Lockett. I don't think they're done. I truly don't think they're done. One of our patrons reached out because that's part of what we do at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone is that, we help people with trade questions. And he DM'd me and he said, I literally woke up to DK Metcalf for my 108 in this class. I'm like, slam accept. Go back right now and hit that button. And he was like, is this where DK has fallen? I'm like, not for me. He's still super young. Even if he's stuck with Drew Lock, it's his dynasty. This
Drew
is
Lock's
what's crazy.
Chucker. Drew Lock's a chucker.
You kidding me? So I mean, how fast would you slam accept a deal on DK Metcalf for your 108?
Oh, right away. I mean, I think the dude, he's going to put up, he's a 14 to 18 point per game guy. Like when he's rolling, he got into a little bit of a funk last year, but with Drew Lock's going to chuck. So I do think the guy can play, and I think he's perfect for the fantasy game. Like he's a numbers guy for sure.
For me, DK Metcalf is like if you can get him that kind of cheap or you can make some moves, DK Metcalf is the perfect counterpiece to like a Cooper Kupp, a Justin Jefferson, a really consistent wide receiver one. Because then you got your consistent wide receiver one, and then you have a guy like DK Metcalf. Yeah, we've seen it last year. He can go on a couple of week streaks where he could drop 5, 6, 7 points on you. But you also know very quickly that he can go through and drop the boom on you.
Like DJ Moore too. DJ Moore, if I have him as my wide receiver too, I'm very happy. Now, if you look at the 1-8 in this class, what are you looking at? So I think Drake London's gone. I think Garrett Wilson's gone. I think maybe Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams was the name I was going to say.
And then, so what is it? It's Olave, it's Treylon Burks. I think DK Metcalf's better than Treylon Burks. I think Treylon Burks, he's got skills, but I don't think he's as good as everybody kind of touted him out to be. I think he's maybe more of a college player at this point. He needs to get a little more refined as a route runner. We got to see how he fits into an offense. I don't think he can be a 1. I think he's going to be a great 2. And DK Metcalf, I think we know he can be the 1. And I 1-8, maybe if it was 1-4, I'd consider it, but anything after 1-4, I'm taking Metcalf for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the difference between Treylon Burks and DK Metcalf at the 103 would be a decision point for a lot of dynasty GMs. I'm clearly going to take Brees Hall, and probably Kenneth Walker over him because I'm always a running back guy. I've said this 100
I
times.
like Isaiah Spiller too, man. I
He's
do.
got to get the right landing spot and the right draft capital
He's
for me.
twitched up, dude. He is twitched. He's got juice. Spiller's got some juice.
Well, speaking of juice, and he does not like it spilled, is Aaron Rodgers. He literally comes out and says he's coming back to the Green Bay Packers. He officiated the wedding of teammate David Bakhtiari, and he comes back, 4-year extension. And I tell you, I took this as really good news for Aaron Rodgers. Now, again, I talked earlier, 2 to 3 year windows for a dynasty gamer. And if you're a contender right now, Aaron Rodgers is going to be there for 3 years. So if you're playing in 3-year windows, I moved him up. I moved Aaron Rodgers based on this contract and this news. I moved him back up ahead of Trey Lance and Justin Fields. So I had him just based on age, the ambiguity of his situation. Is he going to retire? Is he going to go to a new team? But the minute that news broke and he inked that deal, I moved him back up. Nothing against the young guys. I know they have plenty of upside, but I know that Aaron Rodgers in the right frame of mind in that offense and in that division is going to give me I've seen it too many times in a row, top 5. His worst season's like QB 14. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm getting a guy at a pretty good value that helps me win now. And if I'm just entering the first year of my contenders window, I know I can lean on this dude for 3 years. So for me, an easy move up for Rodgers. What were your thoughts on this news?
I mean, I was a little disappointed because, like I had said earlier, I kind of wanted him to go to Denver. Like I said, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, they both play into what he does very well. I mean, the guy is a straight up killer. He is, for what it's worth, one of the most talented, like physically gifted quarterbacks I've been able to watch in my life. The guy just, he's a killer. And I think, they haven't drafted a wide receiver. You got to think, they franchise tagged Devontae Adams a second time. You have to think, and again, this might go under the tab of speculation, but they can't plan on you can't keep doing that. You have to draft a wide receiver. If you're not going to pay Devontae Adams, you have to draft a wide receiver. You have to plan on replacing him. So hopefully, if you're a Rodgers owner, you're going to have a season with a high draft pick wide receiver finally to go alongside Devontae Adams. And then you're getting, something that Rodgers hasn't had in a long time. Because don't get me wrong, I like Allen Lazard. I liked him coming out of Iowa State, but the dude's not a separator. He is not, and that works with Rodgers because Rodgers has pinpoint accuracy and it goes well, but he's a 3. He is a wide receiver 3 at best. You go ahead, you get Drake London, who does a lot similar to what Devontae Adams does, like that he's 6'4", phenomenal body control, good athlete. The dude, I watched some video of him in high school in a dunk contest. Like I think of a tall dude, I think of a big dude, I think of a goof, a buffoon, like somebody who can't, like a goon. That's what you think of when you think of tall. At least when I think of tall people, that's kind of what I think of. This dude is not that. This dude is an elite athlete at 6'4". You go ahead and you pair Rodgers up with something like that, and the sky's the limit. You got to think he's pissed off. They lost in the playoffs. He's another guy like, people want to see him fail, and he's using that as fuel. So 3 years, give me Rodgers for 3 years. I didn't think Tom Brady would play for one more year, and this was 4 years ago. So Rodgers, he's still got gifts. He just won MVP. This dude ain't slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't believe he's on the Tom Brady kale smoothies and special pajamas. Yeah, he's on that ghee butter, having it coming out of both ends.
Yeah,
cleanses, but at least he's trying. He's trying some other weird holistic stuff.
That's true. That's true. He's still like in the spectrum of that. At least he's focused on health in one way or the other. You
do you, buddy. Your health regimen's yours.
Good. He ain't eating McDonald's. He ain't. He's not doing the Chad Johnson diet. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely not. And this is a good person with a good tweet, and I don't remember the author, or I'd give him a shout. But he was asking, is Amari Rodgers going to be a thing? And I think he kind of has to be. They have no salary cap. Like even the basics, I think as of the recording of this podcast, I think they're still $45 million over the cap. So Yes, I tell you who I would love to see fall to them, and it may hurt Amari Rodgers, would be Jameson Williams. Maybe he slips
Fly.
in the draft because of the knee injury, and then that gives Green Bay a year with Devontae Adams as kind of that band-aid. Not band-aid, that's not fair because Devontae Adams is a boss, but
He's a dude.
as like a transition guy, so that because if he doesn't want to be there long term, then he won't be. But we'll see what happens with that. But that gives you that heir apparent to Devontae Adams, that young stud, and Jameson Williams. And typically, a guy like Jameson Williams has to go to a team like the Lions or the Giants or the Jaguars or a team like that. But because of the ACL, he may slip to a very good situation. So something to keep an eye on as we get closer to rookie season.
I do want to touch on Rodgers. I think what hurt Rodgers a little bit last year was them bringing back Randall Cobb, because I think they do have similarities. Rodgers was at the Senior Bowl. He ran some routes out of the backfield. He played some running back at the Senior Bowl. He showed position flex. And another thing that hurts them is they don't need a third down back. Like, he's the type of guy you could put in at third down back. You could flex him outside. You could generate touches for a guy like Amari Rodgers because you want to get him the ball in space. And I don't know if with their offense they've really had the opportunity for that guy. So I think if we see Randall Cobb not come back, we could see him more in the slot. And also, I think Rodgers is the type of dude who, he needs to get really comfortable with you. He needs to trust you. Like, it took Alan Lazard like 3 years, to really get in his good graces. So I think Amari Rodgers can still be a thing. And I think this could be, if we went back, if we polled, if people are being honest, if you go back and you poll people, who was a better prospect coming out? Wan'Dale Robinson, who's, people like him. He's a top 10 in most, wide receiver rankings in this year's class, or Amari Rodgers. I think it's pretty close. I don't think they're that far apart. I think he's that type of player. So it'll be exciting to see if he could pan out.
No, I agree. And is there a bigger lottery ticket, in your opinion, from last year's rookie class that really failed to live up to any expectation, to be quite honest, that due to their situation has as much upside as him? Like, if I had the choice between Rondale Moore, Terrace Marshall, and Amari Rodgers, given their current, not previous, but current acquisition cost, I'm not so sure that I don't take Amari Rodgers and just laugh all the way to the bank. Because, again, necessity and it's going to be interesting. So if you're looking for like a scratch off lottery ticket, boom bust, won't cost you much, go get Amari Rodgers. Go offer your 2022 third, and just, if you burn it up, you burn it up. But you're attached to a good QB, and if he hits, you'll be able to get that back and then some, because every league's got a cheesehead in there. Everybody's got a Rodgers fan,
and you don't want to try to buy up during training camp.
Yeah, no,
because that's when the dude is going to start really hitting.
Bingo. And the Instagram videos and all that stuff's going to start hitting social media, and then all of a sudden you're going to get the big name fantasy footballers, the Matthew Berrys of the world, pumping this guy up, and you'll never get him as cheap as you will.
And look at Deebo Samuel and look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, that kind of position flex wide receiver is hot right now. So LaFleur, they're kind of, if there's a guy on their roster, and I know everybody and their mother is trying to compare somebody to Deebo Samuel, so I'm not trying to do that. I'm comparing offensive coordinators, and it is a copycat league. They're going to look on their roster, and they're going to see who is our guy to do that stuff, and that's Amari Rodgers. Like, that would be the player that they would slot in that role.
They're going to manufacture some touches. This is the kind of thing, again, the draft could impact this as well. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. We've always said this: Dynasty is much like poker, the stock market. It's a game of incomplete information. And as more information comes out, the clearer the picture, the more it impacts value. So if you want to get these guys, you got to speculate a little bit. You got to be willing to gamble a little bit in order to make it. I got one last quarterback, and then we'll kind of touch on some receiver news. And that's Carson Wentz leaving my Colts. I know that people feel like the Colts got fleeced, but end of the day, the Colts gave up a third and what ended up being a first-round pick. Now they're getting back a third, so the 2/3 are a wash, right? They gave up one, they got one back. They did a pick swap of seconds this year, so they move up to 42 from 47. and they get a third next year that could become a second. So if everything falls in the Colts' favor, they're going to wind up giving up one round of draft capital. But that's the difference between their 2022 first and what could be Washington's 2023 second. So one round, potentially, it depends on who's good, who's bad. And they got Washington to take his $28 million cap hit.
Huge.
I like this for both teams. I'll start with the Colts. Clearly, Jim Irsay was not a fan. Happy to get him off the team. And I'm borrowing this from PFF, but they were talking about football in general. I'm talking Dynasty. They say this is just as good of an offensive line in Washington as he had in Indianapolis. It actually graded out a little bit higher per their rankings. But their point is Terry McLaurin's arguably, I don't think it's arguably, the best wide receiver Carson Wentz has ever had in his career. Pittman wasn't bad. T.Y. Hilton way past his prime. Alshon Jeffrey, even though had some good seasons, was way past his prime. Zach Ertz did some things, but Terry McLaurin. So the offensive line play is going to be pretty good. The best wide receiver of his career. I don't know that it's great for Wentz, but I think it's really good for Terry McLaurin and Washington. John, what were your thoughts when you saw this?
I think it was a good move for the Colts for everything you had mentioned, because I just don't think Wentz is a winner. And I think the Colts are very close, very, very close, So I think if you get the right guy in there, they're going to compete, because they play a brand of football like the 49ers, that all they got to do is make it to the tournament. And then if they make it to the tournament where every possession matters, when you can grind it out like that, and then you got guys like DeForest Buckner, and Darius Leonard, manning up your So I like it for the Colts, and they had to take a shot because they're close. They had to go out and try to get Carson Wentz and kick the tires a bit, see if it worked out. It didn't work out. And then on the other hand, the Washington football team, man, they were desperate for a quarterback. Maybe this is lazy. Maybe I'm lazy, but is Wentz that much better than Heineke? I don't know.
I think he was. I think he was.
He was.
I think before his broken knee led to a broken psyche.
Yes.
I truly believe that he was.
He was 100. I'm saying, but now, so I don't know, but I agree. I'm a big Terry McLaurin truther. The dude he's another one of those guys, very quarterback friendly. The frame and the route running all make it easy for quarterbacks to link up with him. I mean, I think Trayvon Diggs held him to one reception last year, so no big deal. But Terry McLaurin is a guy I have a lot of my fantasy rosters. And, how was Carson Wentz last year with the running backs? Did they get a lot of touches out of the backfield? How is this going to benefit Antonio Gibson? I'm not sure, so I'm actually
I think it's about the same to maybe a slight tick up. Carson Wentz is not like a one read check down guy. I think this will actually allow Scott Turner and that offense.
What about Logan Thomas?
Well, that's what. So you're steering me. This is why John's such a great podcast host, because he steers you in the right direction.
Huh.
This is arguably the best set of weapons that Carson Wentz has ever had. Curtis Samuel, if he can stay healthy, Logan Thomas, Antonio Brown, Terry McLaurin. They have the 11th overall pick in the draft. They've got a little cap room. Maybe they could bring in a Juju, a guy like that, a guy that, can really be a piece. Because I think if you're Washington was clearly in on Russ.
Right.
I think they probably, would have called on Rodgers. Allegedly at the combine, half-ass joking, I guess they inquired about Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
Washington wants to win. And, outside of Dallas, does Philadelphia scare you? The Giants clearly don't. So they have to see that division is winnable. They won it 2 years ago at 7-9?
And they've invested that defense. They've invested so many picks in that defense. That defense is like Chase Young. He comes back healthy. You got Deron Payne. You got Jonathan Allen. You got Cole Holcomb, Jamin Davis. They got players, man. They have players. And I think Brandon Scherf, their offensive guard, is a free agent, but like you said, they got money. They need to bring him back. So, they're desperate. Again, the NFC is ripe for the taking. They saw what San Francisco did. San Francisco was this close to getting there. And I think, again, it's a copycat league. great defense, and they just have to be okay on offense. And they were desperate. I mean, they obviously probably wanted to be more than okay, but I think with Carson Wentz, you're at least going to be okay.
And I agree. You and I talked about this the other day. This is us also not only doing a podcast for you, but sharing our conversations. And I think if I'm Washington, I think I take that 11th overall pick and hope a Sauce Gardner or
Derek Stingley.
A Stingley Jr. drop to me. You know, that could be the missing piece in the back end of that defense for them. Again, you already mentioned their front seven.
Man, if Derek Stingley came out as a freshman in 2019, he'd be a top 3 pick this year. So his tape, you know, injury, and he trailed off a little bit. There's some questions about whether, you know, his motor, but his film from his freshman year, phenomenal. He'd be a top 3 pick. So anybody who gets him, you might have to worry about some, you know, the motor and if he's going to be all in. But that dude, talent-wise, top 5 player in this class.
We are on the same page. So good to see, good stuff. And I'm looking at contracts. So Carson Wentz's $28 million contract, which they took, in and of itself, not great. It is looks like number 8, 9 on the list, but he's making less than Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Matt Ryan, and Ryan Tannehill. And I think that's a tier of quarterbacks he can play in. So for me, I don't mind the swing for Dynasty. If you can get him as, you know, like for a second, why not? I mean, if you need a little bit of QB depth, but that's why I love Superflex. There's always cheap quarterback help out there. Do want to jump into the Ridley news now. I'm not going to get into the morality of, oh, it's gambling, it's not gambling. Here's the thing. I call this the Pete Rose rule. I'm a little bit older than a lot of the Dynasty gamers out there, but I call this the Pete Rose rule. And just because you don't like a rule, I don't like the speed limit. So if I speed and I get pulled over, I know the consequences of my action is going to be a ticket. This is in every locker room in every sport across the United States. This is not newer news. But all I'm going to talk about is the fact that he is gone for the year. So from a Dynasty standpoint, how are you handling Ridley, John?
So I just moved Calvin Ridley for a 3rd, I think. Let me pull this up. I moved him the other day, and bear with me. And this will basically tell you exactly what I'm doing with Calvin Ridley, because I held him like Michael Thomas. You know, I had him on the same roster. So what did I do? Okay, so here we go. That was another move I did. I received 2/3. And this is IDP Superflex, so I think that makes the thirds a little more valuable. I got 3/8, and I got a 2023 third for Calvin Ridley. So, you know, at that point, you know, it's hard for me to have faith in this cat just because, and I don't know, I held him, and now this is going to be 2 years. This is two seasons, and I'm on board with thinking a player can come back after 1 because I've seen it, but I don't know what it's going to be like after 2. And I don't know if this dude, I mean, I think he's going to come back because he's going to, you know, 2 years away from the game, he needs to make some money. And I think that's going to be the goal. But if that's the goal, it's just coming back to make money. That's a lot different than coming back and trying to be great. So, and I can't question that stuff. I don't know Calvin Ridley. I don't know what's going on in his head, but all I know is I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win now. He sat on my bench for a year. I can't afford to have him sit on my bench for another season. I'm going to try to turn it into something, and no one was willing to pay any more than that. So that's what I got.
My thought is that if I'm a contender or I have a good team and I have Odell Beckham Jr., I will gladly give you Odell Beckham Jr. today for Calvin Ridley.
Okay.
You know, Odell Beckham Jr., 29 years old. Sucks for him. Seems like he'd be a nice enough fella. 29 years old, retore the same ACL he tore once before. As you know, you're a coach and, you know, a father of athletes, as am I, as a former athlete myself. And injuries don't get better with age. And, you know, here's a guy that said himself he'll probably be back in like what, mid-November? So what are you going to get him for, like weeks 13 through 17 maybe, if you're lucky? And then he's going to be super rusty.
He was like playoff Lenny too. Like he wasn't, you know, regular season OBJ. He was ball of fire during the playoffs. And you got to think that's going to be the goal again. Try to recapture that. They're not going to push it with him.
So for me, I mean, the only comparable thing I can think of with Ridley was Plaxico Burress. Plaxico Burress went to jail
Man,
for 2 years, come back. But the difference was is Burress came back at age 34, whereas Ridley will be coming back at age 28. So for me, if I can move guys again like Odell Beckham Jr., um, I'm just trying to just I'm looking at some wide receiver names here. Um, no, I'm not giving up like a Mike Evans, but I don't know. I'll put you to test. Christian Kirk or Ridley.
so I think this also needs to be put into perspective. It's what is your roster like as well. If you're trying to win now, I think that kind of also changes. But if I'm a guy, if I'm I'm always looking towards the future. But if I have a team that I don't think can win now, I'm definitely taking Calvin Ridley.
So for me, I'm treating this very much the same way that I did the Deshaun Watson last year. I said I'm pretending like this is an ACL he tore in camp. I don't care. It's bad news. I'm just like it's no different because someone's going to tear an ACL in camp. Hopefully, it's nobody good, but someone always does.
Right.
That's how I'm going. I'm going to. The only difference is he's actually not going to be injured when he comes back. So for me, the fact that he was never a guy who won with physicality at the wide receiver position, he was a technician, to use a term you used earlier. For me, I don't mind stashing him. He could still give you a good 2 or 3 years once he comes back. So for me, it stinks. I wish he'd made better choices, but if I can scoop him up cheap, another guy, Brandon Cooks, can I give up a Brandon Cooks?
Man,
You know,
I don't know. Brandon Cooks is pretty underrated. So I want to ask you this question: how much Calvin Ridley did you have prior to this situation?
I don't know. I'm in 17 now, 18 dynasty leagues, maybe 3 to 4. So you're looking at a sub 20%
So
rostership.
I'm in five, and I had him in three of them. So I think I'm jaded, whereas you might not be as jaded because he didn't sit on a lot of your benches for a full season already. So I do think that affects the mental, like how you're looking at it. So I do think we're looking at it a little differently because of how we were affected. Brandon Cooks, man, if I'm trying to win now, I'm taking Brandon Cooks because
I
that dude,
totally dig that because he looked great with Davis Mills.
and he's just, I mean, he's a guy like, all right, so we talked about DK being a great 2 and DJ Moore being a great 2. Brandon Cooks is a great 3, and he's the cost to him is like a 4. You can get Brandon Cooks for like a 2 third-round picks, and that guy he falls into 1,000-yard seasons.
Let me hit you with a little bit tougher one.
Okay.
Hunter Renfro
Oh man,
or Calvin Ridley.
Renfro, dirty
I
Renfro.
have to agree. I mean, we've already heard the word coming out of camp that they're going to make him the Wes Welker in this offense. And when that what was the training camp video when he starts off? He was beating up on Jalen Ramsey. I mean, this guy is just unbelievable in those option routes, that short underneath stuff. One of my absolute favorite players to watch, and he's not Cooper Kupp. He normally we want to compare the white slot wide
Right.
receiver.
Right.
The default answer is Wes Welker,
Right.
and Cooper Kupp is clearly not Wes Welker. Cooper Kupp is like he's more Jordy Nelson
Right.
than
It's more Devontae Adams too. Like
he's like he's like 6'1", beats you up with a double move. I don't think that's Renfro, but I mean, if you got Ridley, hang on to him. We're coming up on an hour, so we'll start bringing this one in for landing. But it came out just as we hit record. Ertz going back to Arizona. What are your thoughts on Ertz, especially at a tight end premium? And does this help Kyler? Is this like a peace offering? Hey, here's a guy who helped you play good down the stretch. We're going to bring him back for one more season.
So last year, on a lot of my segments early in the season, I think it was Max Williams was like an unknown tight end out of FSU. Believe that's who it was, and he had a few great games with Kyler Murray, like a few really good games. And so I've seen Kyler Murray produce with average to below average tight ends. Like it's a thing. So Zach Ertz back there, I think it's great. Zach Ertz is a wide receiver playing the tight end position, and what he is going to cost in Dynasty, what he is going to cost in redraft. Give me all of the Zach Ertz shares because even if I have him on my bench, if the guy that I'm starting goes down and that's my second option, I'm feeling great about it because Kyler Murray, he likes to hit his tight ends.
He does like to hit his tight ends, and I was hoping you were. I was hoping you're going to. I was going to hit you with a pop quiz.
Go ahead. Quiz
Who's
me.
younger, Zach Ertz or Travis Kelce?
I would say Kelsey's probably like 31 and maybe Ertz is like 30.
You're very close. So Ertz is 31 and Kelce is 32, and but one was born in late October, one was born in November. So they're almost 12 months exactly between the two. But Ertz is younger and he's so much cheaper. And I'm not saying that you're going to get Kelce type production out of Ertz, but I was just looking. He finished the season in spite of having a 2-point game, probably due to the move or what have you. But he finished as the tight end 6.
Right.
Where else are you going to get a guy with tight end? And really, the real damage for him was done after he went to Arizona. So he's a guy who still has top 5 at the position upside.
And we're still waiting for Dallas Goedert to break out fully.
Well, in fairness to Goddard, he did win me some cash coming down the stretch. So I will not sit here on this podcast and listen to you besmirch the good name.
I've been holding on, man. I got so many shares. Like I'm a believer. I'm a believer.
All right, and then one other bit of news. We didn't really get into the impact of Gallup and Landry. What are your thoughts on those two?
So Michael Gallup, I tweeted this out right away, and I hate to be negative, but if Michael Gallup plays a 17-game season one time in this 5-year deal in Dallas, I will run a half marathon. And I hate running distance. I hate it. I can go to a football field, run sprints for like 2 hours, on and off, on and off, on and off. I could do that all day. But you get me past 2 miles and I want to run into a wall and just end it. So if he does, the guy he's just constantly, he had a big injury, but it's not the big injury that concerns me. He's the type of guy, he's always kind of got like a little injury going on, an ankle or a calf, and he's out for 2 or 3 weeks. And I think the deal, he's coming in at about $12 million a year. I think the way it's going to look, I think it's about $27 million guaranteed. So I believe it's probably going to be all front loaded. It's basically a 2 to 3 year deal where by the time CeeDee Lamb is due, I think that they're going to be able to get out from the Gallup contract if they want to. Now it's a waiting game. Is he going to be back? It's probably going to be back middle of September. So, I will say this. Dak trusts Gallup more than he trusted Cooper and more than he trusted Lamb. Gallup's got phenomenal hands. He is always where he's supposed to be. And he's got elite body control. Like in the air, you watch some of his film. When he gets up in the air, the way he controls his body, stays in bounds and goes and grabs the ball, all of those things he does very well. So as a wide receiver, I like him. I really like him for Dak. The only thing that concerns me is I want to see him put together a stretch of 14, 15 games of just playing dominant football. And then who was the other wide receiver you mentioned?
Jarvis Landry. I guess he's more in that speculative camp with Browns acquiring Amari Cooper. They've given him permission to seek a trade. So
is it New England?
I hope. I mean, I don't know. We'll end with a little speculation. How about this? We'll wrap it up on this question. Out of everybody left remaining, who is the one free agent that you're most intrigued by, or the guy that you want to see land in a certain spot? Give me one guy.
This is completely a dynasty question, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer this in a dynasty way. It's Bobby Wagner, and I want Bobby Wagner in Dallas bad. Like I want
That's
him
an IDP
in Dallas.
question.
Yeah,
we'll give you IDP question.
I want Micah Parsons to learn how to be a professional from Bobby Wagner. I want Bobby Wagner to come into Dallas and finally give us a dude who's actually done something, because we got so many young guys that come into Dallas and they're more focused on building their brand than they are winning a championship. And Bobby Wagner, he's not going to be about that. You're going to show up and you're going to have to play and produce, because I think that's what that dude's about. But now as far as who am I most, man, I kind of Rashad Penny. I think he's probably the guy, because we mentioned Kenneth Walker. We mentioned Breece Hall. We mentioned Isaiah Spiller. I think Kyron Williams was a little bit disappointing. There's definitely going to be guys who get drafted late that all of a sudden pop up, because that happens every year. Guys that pop out of nowhere, nobody expected. Like I liked Elijah Mitchell, but I'd be lying if I told you I had him in my top 5. I think I had him at 6 or 7 of my running backs last year. So, yes, he's on my radar, but I couldn't tell you he was going to be great, and I don't know if many guys could. So I think Rashad Penny outside of those top 3 running backs, I think he's probably the 4th best option. And we saw him come on strong. And this is coming from a guy like, I thought he was a jag. I thought he was just a guy, and he proved me wrong down the stretch. So I'd be really interested to see where he lands. But what about you? Who's the guy you're most excited to see?
Well, I'm going to answer a question from the YouTube stream. This guy is a normal contributor for us when we're streaming live on YouTube, youtube.com/Dynasty Warzone. Mike Kinney goes, what is the most intriguing spot available? And I have to believe it's the quarterback position of my Indianapolis Colts. And as bad as this is going to sound, I'm kind of hoping for Mitch Trubisky. And I know it's not because he's great, it's because he has the wheels. And I do believe the wheels would really open up things for Jonathan Taylor. I think Allen Robinson, if I remember correctly, had the best season of his career with Mitch Trubisky. I think Mitch Trubisky catches a lot of the bad rap. I mean, the guy went to the playoffs twice with the Bears and was a
Kind of
double.
reminds me of Mark Sanchez.
He was a double doink away from winning a playoff game.
I think Mark Sanchez got a bad rap too, and I think the media and I think he got ruined. And I'm with you, man. I think Mitchell Trubisky, I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap. I'd like to see him kind of rebound.
And if for some reason Mitchell Trubisky were to wind up on the New York Football Giants, I'd love to see Daniel Jones. Also, I would actually prefer Trubisky because as a Colts fan, I wouldn't want to see them give up any draft capital for a QB. I'd rather just be able to sign a guy like Mitch Trubisky, keep that draft capital. But I will say this on the way out. We were talking earlier about the quarterback and what the I think the Colts have done it backwards, to be honest. I think the way the Lions are doing it's the right way to doing it. They've got all these picks. They've got their offensive line in place. They've got some young talent with Swift and Hawkinson and St. Brown. They're going to use these 2 first, probably one on defense, and then they're going to, hopefully get a wide receiver with either 32 or 34. They're going to stink this year because that's what the Lions do, and they're going to get beat up a little bit. And but then next year they're going to wind up probably with a top 5 pick plus another, I believe another first, at least a second from the Rams, and they're going to be able to go up and get their QB of the future. And then they're going to have all this young talent that they can afford to pay because they've got a QB on a rookie deal. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I think they're doing it the right way, and I also kind of think that's what Seattle should do. When I heard Seattle was in the market for Watson, they might be. I think that's kind of absurd, especially coming from Seattle, because Seattle was a team that they were at their best when they had a rookie quarterback on a low deal, and they could have all these stars around him. And I think if you're going to get rid of Wagner, if you're going to get rid of Russ, you got Metcalf. I don't even think he's up on his deal yet. Take those. Don't invest in that quarterback yet. Go ahead, get some more pieces, and then go ahead and get a quarterback next year. So I like what you're saying. I'm definitely on the board there. It's a big window to succeed when you're not paying a quarterback like a quarter of your entire salary cap.
Yeah, and as much as Jack Easterby and Nick Caserio have taken a bad rap in Houston, they're doing the same thing. They're going to give Davis Mills the opportunity. They're going to hope to catch lightning in a bottle with a Kirk Cousins, Dak-esque QB, a guy you got in those middle rounds that can maybe be a star. And if not, cool, you're going to get a king's ransom for Deshaun Watson. And if Davis Mills doesn't work out in 2022, you just go out and draft the guy of the future next year, and you're still going to have all these picks in the salary cap to be able to make some things work. But John, I want to thank you for making it work and jumping on with me, man. Before you go, please tell everybody you guys have a Patreon. You guys got a lot going on with your YouTube. Toilets to Titles. What's going on?
So, check us out on the Twitter at Toilets2Titles, and I'm on the Twitter at Coach Schepps. And you can find out all of our content on toiletstotitles.com. And, we're talking, fantasy football. We're doing a lot of mock drafts. We have a few different shows on our network. One's Dynasty based, one's trade based, similar to what you're doing. So, just some guys having some fun, talking fantasy football. We do need to mention what I mentioned earlier. We're going to be linking up for the draft. So Dynasty Warzone, Toilets to Titles, we're going to be getting together prior to the draft and maybe even during the draft. But I know prior to the draft, we're going to be doing a show where I believe an hour of it's going to be on your show And now it's going to be on Toilets and Titles. We're going to be talking prop bets and all sorts of draft fun. So, check that out. Toiletsandtitles.com will take you to all of our content, and it'd be greatly appreciated if you came our way.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of shows, there's going to be a lot this week. Obviously, this is Monday, Sunday on the YouTube. Tuesday, the boys from the Dynasty War Games are going to be playing a free agency game. So you'll catch that on Tuesday. Jerry and I will be back from all the early bird specials of NFL free agency. Obviously the tampering window starts on Monday. Yeah. And by the time the Tuesday night show records, we'll have some news for a Wednesday pod. Kyle will be here with the FF Smackdown on Thursday. And then Dallas. Dallas is not taking the week off. We're just going to push him to the end of the week. And he's going to be talking IDP rookies for your – see, John,
I need to link up with him. I need to link up with Dallas. I got some IDP rookies that I'm interested to hear what he has to say about Chanel, Chad Muma. There's some IDP players I'd like to pick his brain about.
Sounds like you need to tune in on Friday. He's at Salad Galore. That's Dallas – Salad spelled, that's Dallas backwards, Salad with 2 L's,
okay.
Galore on Twitter. You can find him, but you can find my guest. You can find John at Coach Schepps on Twitter. You can find me at DWZ Memphis. And remember, here at the Dynasty WarZone, we're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. We'll see you back here all week. Lots of stuff. Have a good day, guys.